Hi, my name is Caleb Smith. I'm the leader of Elevate Youth Ministries here at Blood River Baptist Church, which is honestly just a fancy way of saying that I'm the youth minister. And what we want to do is just take a few minutes, select a passage of scripture, and just go through it. So if you have your copy, God's Word, I invite you to join me in Psalm 121, which is actually the passage, the chapter that we chose to represent who we are as a ministry and what we want our youth to know and remember when they leave here. Now, if you are one of my youth watching this video, you know that we've been going through a series talking about the cross and what it means, but for right now, given the state our world is in, we are going to suspend that series for now, at least until we can meet face to face again, just so that we can honestly just grow in this moment. God's given us this time for a reason, and I know that might sound weird right now, but God does not allow these moments to be wasted. I mean, think about it. Paul wrote almost all of the New Testament while he was under house arrest. We look back through history and we see people in isolation writing and doing awesome stuff. So don't allow this moment to be wasted. That being said, if you got a journal or something, I encourage you to just write through your experience during this time. I actually use this one at school just to write down my sermon notes. And I really hope you take notes during this time because we're going to talk about it on Sunday during our live chat. At least I hope we do. Anyway, Psalm 121. If you're continuing to turn there, I just want to start by telling you a story, just to head this off. Before I surrendered to the ministry and became a youth minister, I was actually a student at Southeastern Louisiana University studying to become a history teacher. And one of the classes we had to take, it was called Major Problems in American History. And in that class, we had to research and discuss a topic that, as honestly, we were playing what if history. So what if a certain moment in time would have happened or turned out differently? And growing up, I was always fascinated with World War II, specifically the Battle of Pearl Harbor. So when I got the chance to research it, I took it. So that's the moment I researched. And during that research, I came across a story about Admiral Chester Nimitz. And it's just a fascinating story. See, Admiral Nimitz, on December 7, 1941, was just a regular night for him and his family. They'd gone out to a nice dinner, they were in the theater enjoying a concert or a play, I don't really know what it was, but they were there, and one of his aides walks up and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Sir, you have a phone call." Now, I can just imagine his frustration, because when you think about it, when you're with your family, you really don't want to be interrupted. So I can just imagine him blowing off his aide saying, "You know what, I don't care who it is. You tell them that you're going to take a message and then I'm going to call them back later." And his aide probably just didn't know what to do, so he said, "Sir, you really need to take this phone call. It's the commander-in-chief." Turns out it was not just a regular Sunday night, because it's never a regular Sunday night when the president calls you specifically. But that's what happened, and Admiral walked to the phone and said, "Sir, how can I help you?" Said, "Admiral, I need you to pack your bags, because I'm sending you to Pearl Harbor to take over as commander of the Pacific Fleet." I don't know what he felt in that moment, but 17 days later, he and his staff arrived. Now, this is Christmas Eve that he arrives. And immediately after he gets off the plane, he hops on a boat and has a helmsman take him around just for a tour of the damage. On the way back to the dock, the helmsman turned around, or he turned around one, and he asked Admiral, he said, "Sir, how do you feel seeing all this damage, all this destruction firsthand? What are your thoughts?" Admiral just told him, he turned around, looked at him, and he said, "Well, either the Japanese made the 3 biggest mistakes an attack force can make, or God was watching out for America. Which do you think it was?" Now think about it. Here is a man standing in the midst of chaos and utter destruction, and yet he has the tenacity to say, either the Japanese made the 3 biggest mistakes an attack force can make, or God was watching out for America. Which do you think it was? That story became the premise of my paper. But that's my question I want to explore today. What does it look like for us, since we're in this moment of chaos and just uncertainty? How do we face tomorrow with that same assurance that the Admiral had? No matter what happens, God is in control. And that's where Psalm 121 comes into play, because the psalmist knew when he wrote this passage, life doesn't like to play fair. It has a really nasty curveball. It likes to put up storms and put up obstacles in our path to block us, to prevent us from getting to where we want to be, to just interrupt our lives. So this has happened throughout history. So Psalm 121, you are free to have whatever version of the Bible. Just use whatever version of the Bible you find you're comfortable with. I personally have the CSB in front of me. Here's what it says. Psalmist writes, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to slip. Your protector will not slumber. Indeed, the protector of Israel does not slumber or sleep. The Lord protects you. The Lord is a shelter right by your side. The sun will not strike you by day, or the moon by night. The Lord will protect you from all harm. He will protect your life. The Lord will protect your coming and going, both now and forever. So let's just go back to verse 1 for a moment. He says, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where will my help come from? Now, have you ever been to the mountains? Ever traveled? A few years ago, my home church took me and my college and career class up to Gatlinburg, which is through the mountains. We were staying in a cabin up there. And honestly, we could have got to that cabin and just stayed there and not gotten bored. There was just so much to do. But one night we decided to go out and do some touristy things, because that's what you do when you're a tourist. So we went down to the Strip and just did some exploring. And we ended the night at the Comedy Barn. Now that being said, no one told us, being from South Louisiana, that you need to prepare for snow. Yeah, there was a snowstorm that night, so we were frozen down the mountain and wasn't quite sure what to do. So what I'm trying to show you is that sometimes things happen in the mountains that are, well, unexpected. And when Psalms writes, I lift my eyes to the mountains, where will my help come from? We need to understand that he is genuinely terrified, because this journey through the mountains that he's going to have to take, it represents a daunting task, because it is a perilous journey where anything can happen. There's imminent danger, because there's obviously, you can run into a band of thieves, run into a rock slide, run into wild animals. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know what his future holds. So he is genuinely terrified. But there are moments like right now where we get that same feeling. Some of you are feeling uneasy right now. You are genuinely terrified because you don't know what your future holds. You don't know if you're going to get the virus or not. And honestly, just encourage you to stay away from people as much as you can at this moment. But there are moments other than this that cause an overwhelming sense of fear in our lives. See, trusting God in light is easy. It's trusting God in the dark that's hard to do. When life gets complicated, when the road ahead seems uncertain and we're not sure what our future holds, it can get kind of tricky. So I want to reassure you. But look at this realization the psalmist made in verse 2. He says, my help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So in verse 1, we see the psalmist in a state of absolute panic. But in verse 2, we see that panic dissipate as his sense of fear begins to just disappear. No longer is he afraid of what might happen or what his future might hold, because in a moment of absolute clarity, the psalmist realizes that no matter what happens, God is still seated on his throne. He's still in control of the world that he created. That's still true today. God is still in control. See, our fear or doubt demonstrates a lack of faith in God, in him as God and a lack of trust in him as king. But as we begin to understand who he is and the relationship he has with us and the rest of creation, a sense of peace begins to take over. Because we realize who he is and what he's done. So let that sense of peace take over. See, our trust in God makes our fear give way to faith. So in this moment of social distancing where you're isolated and just alone, spend time with God. Spend time trying to grow closer to him, because verse 2, my help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Get to know him better. Don't let this moment be wasted. Use this moment to help grow your faith. Well, that's honestly the premise of the series that we're going to start, talking about how in moments of brokenness, God uses those to make our faith stronger. And that's what we see here. His faith is being made stronger because he realizes who God is. Now, let's look at verse 3. He says, he will not allow your foot to slip. Your protector will not slumber. Let's do verse 4 too. Indeed, the protector of Israel does not slumber or sleep. So the path going forward, and honestly, is uncertain. We don't know how long this is going to last, but it's here for now. And sometimes it's not an easy road to follow. You and I both know that. But he knows how treacherous the road ahead of us is. He knows how easy it can be for us to mess up or slip and fall and get hurt during this time. But look at verse 3, that first part. He says, he, being God, God will not allow your foot to slip. So the first thing we can be reassured of is that as we face tomorrow, even with this uncertainty, is that we can face tomorrow with confidence, because we know that, number one, God provides stability. God provides stability no matter what happens, no matter how hectic life gets, because it's pretty hectic right now. God provides stability, being a constant we can count on. Like I said, don't let this time be wasted. Use this time to grow closer to God, because he is that constant. He is that rock that you can depend on, that you can rely on. So trust him, because he will not allow your foot to slip. The protector will not slumber. God provides stability. All right, sorry, I lost my place. But also think about this. How many times in the Old Testament do we see the Israelites' lives being turned upside down? They're run into captivity or whatever. But even as far away from Jerusalem as they got, God was still that constant. God was still somebody they could count on, that they could cry out to, and he would hear their prayers. Trust me, he hears you where you are right now. All right, last part of that verse says, your protector will not slumber. Indeed, the protector of Israel does not slumber or sleep. So he's not like